What's up, everybody? Welcome to another tutorial with Tim. Today we're going to do a VNAV video here. So VNAV really starts from the beginning. It's helpful in the beginning here when you're entering your flight data into your FMC, so because you got to put some essential stuff in there. So go through the whole process, fill out your flight plan the way you would, your departure, your arrivals, and so on and so forth. And then finish this flight plan, and I'll get back and I'll explain the setting it up for the VNAV. Alright, so once you put in your flight plan, your arrival and departure, so to get the information in the actual computer here for your VNAV when you start to use it, we're going to go in over here to cruising altitude, and we're going to set the cruising altitude for this flight. Just figure out whatever flight you're going to do, but we'll do 25. Ooh. Let's do 25,000 for this. Okay. And then over here in the descent, you can click on the descent, and we're pretty much set up to where we want to be at. So you don't have to really worry about that right there, but you do have to enter your cruising altitude for VNAV to really be effective on anything. So now that we're all set on this end as far as the FMC goes, I'm gonna get this puppy get this puppy up in the air and start our flight. And as we get closer here, I'll start to show you how to actually engage VNAV. Alright, so as you can obviously see, I've already got my autopilot and stuff turned on here. I do not use VNAV for departures. You can if you want to, and I just don't typically, because it never complies or never goes along with what ATC is doing. Obviously on this flight we're not using ATC, so it's not that big of a deal to use it, but I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and take off here off of 25 left. And we're flying from Phoenix to San Diego, so once I get up and airborne here, go over a couple different things, touch base with you again, and then we'll go from there. So, gonna go ahead and get out of Phoenix right now. Alright, so right here on the FMC, you'll see a bunch of different buttons and stuff, but right here where it says program, short for program, but it's also short for progress, and in this case that's what that means. It's your overall progress of your whole flight, from where you started, where you're going, and where you're at. Now for VNAV, you can engage VNAV when, like I said, whenever you want, and it's gonna control your your vertical climb and your descent. Why we put the altitude in here is because you need to program over here on the right hand side, you'll see all this information here. It's basically controlling the altitudes and saying at what, you know, waypoint are you supposed to be at what altitude. We're all familiar with that, I think. So, but I think in a lot of people's situation, the controlling the descent is more of the situation and the issue that I think a lot of people have is, well, how do I, you know when to be here, be there, so on and so forth. So that's what VNAV really kind of does, and that's what this information in the computer really does for you. So we can't do it yet, obviously. I'm just kind of interrupting the fast forwardness of everything, just to show you this part of it before I forget. So key thing to remember here is top of descent, so T/D. So you'll notice that number is decreasing, and that, as you probably are guessing, that is the time until you start your descent for the path that you're on, for the waypoints that you're on. And that's correct. You are right with that assumption. So as that's trickling down, that's when you want to be aware of, your VNAV, and when we get closer to that, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So for now, let's just speed this back up and enjoy. Alright, so as you can see, we're getting a lot closer here, so I wanted to get with you here and explain a few things. So now, here's a very important next step to do before we run out of time here on the time of descent. Go ahead and take your altitude in your autopilot and go ahead and start bringing that down. Okay, so just hold it until it goes way lower than what it's going to, automatically start to descend to when you click VNAV. So obviously you're not going to descend at 5,000 plus feet per minute, so just go until you have to click VNAV. But where you want to stop it, and I'll show you here as soon as we initiate VNAV here, since we're running close up to the time, we'll just leave it at 10,000. Well, we'll leave it right here until we get back to it. Alright, so you can go ahead now, you're a couple miles away. You can go ahead and just click the VNAV button right here. Okay. Go ahead and click VNAV. Now what that's going to do is just a few things are going to happen. You're going to start to see your vertical speed, and you're going to have to go from once you see indication over here that it's asking for something, go ahead and click over to vertical speed, and that's it. So you're going to notice two things mainly. Your aircraft's going to slow down. And then also you're going to see numbers pop up on your vert speed, and if you haven't already checked the vertical speed button, make sure that you have that highlighted and you're flying or you're descending based on vertical speed versus your altitude. So now where we want to go back to touch base on this altitude situation, so let's go back to legs over here. Let's scroll through. So let's find our runway. So our runway is, from what this is saying, is it's 71 feet above sea level. So our glide slope and where we're going to hit that is going to be approximately 2,000 feet. So we can go ahead and we can take our altitude down to that 2,000 feet because that's our final altitude before we start our actual approach. So we want to go ahead and take this down to the 2,000 feet. Bring this down. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there really isn't much else other than that with for VNAV. I will go over once I get to the 2,000 feet set here. I will. Alright, so now if you are flying with VATSIM or using air traffic control of some sort, then let's just say they ask you to, they don't want to change your descent rate, but they want to change your speed. Obviously on here it doesn't happen near as often as it does in the real world, but on here, if it does happen and you want to change that speed, because there's a couple different options. You can either you can uncheck speed, and you can then control your own speed. It's not going to change your vertical, so if you wanted to do it manually, you can. And then to obviously pick back up to where the FMC is saying that your speed needs to be, just go ahead and click your speed control button on your autopilot there. Second way is you can go in here and you can change it actually at the computer itself. I don't recommend it at all, to be honest. The best thing for this is if you know that you're going to be able to descend at a different speed, you can change that here. So let's just say, and I'm not going to actually like click execute, but let's just say like our target descent speed we don't want, as you see we're at 290 knots. Let's say we wanted that to be 300 knots. So you would just type in the 300 and then you would click the button up there and it's going to automatically change it 300. Now you hear the engine's revving up and it's climbing to the 300 because I initiated it when I said I wasn't going to. But we'll go ahead and we can leave it at that. It's not that big of a deal, because your computer's going to itself, and this, so you also don't panic, you know. Most sim people like myself and others, we try to abide by FAA rules and altitude restrictions and so on and so forth. So as we all know, below 10,000 feet you can't go over 250 knots. Your computer will automatically figure your speed versus your descent rate, and it will start and it will kick this speed alt limit. That's basically saying that 250 knots is at 10,000 feet. So it's going to figure that mathematical equation on its own. So you are below the you're at the 250 or below before you would hit the 10,000 feet. Keep an eye on it though. It's not a 100% works all the time thing. Obviously wind has a lot to do with it. You know, your speeds and there's a lot of different variations that could adjust that, you know, in the real world for it. But just keep an eye on it. If you need to deploy some spoilers to slow down, I mean, it will drop the target speed for, you know, autopilot to the 250, no matter what. But the question is whether or not the aircraft actually will slow down to the 250 beforehand, because it's not going to automatically deploy any spoilers or anything like that. So just monitor it that way. Make sure, you know, if you need spoilers, use them accordingly. But so other than that, that's it. That is it for how to initiate and how to use VNAV. And then obviously, you know, landing and everything else, that's different videos that I've done, and you can go ahead and check those out. But I'm going to play this out, speed this back up until we land at San Diego, and I will get back to you in a second.